Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
The jewel in the crown of the endurance racing calendar and one of the most fierce challenges in the world. It is the Circuit de 24 de Mont Le Mans in France, and we're here for the ARL Prototype Championship round number 3. Great to have you back. We had a fantastic race last week at Daytona, especially in the LMP2 Pros, which came down literally to the wire, 4 100 separating them at the line. But because we had some championship contenders missing last week, we now have a really nice championship teed up for you. My name is Jack Cannan, Sam Fitzpatrick alongside me, and John Robertson running the cameras as always. Sam, like I mentioned, Daytona came down right down to the wire. We've got a sort of a low attendance here today as well, which may also give an opportunity to swing the championship back again.
Yes, very possibly for the drivers. They get one drop score, but yeah, you do want to score as many points as you can whenever you can. And yeah, a good preparation this race as well for any Le Mans events that the drivers are taking part in, whether that be official Le Mans events or events that various leagues are putting on. And so I think we're going to see a very high quality field tonight. Drivers will know this circuit so well. I think at least in the past, I'm not sure if it's still the case, but this circuit at least used to be visited every single season in the iRacing Le Mans series back when it was named that. I think that might still be the case. So they'll have setups prepared, they'll know every single corner like the back of their hand, and so I think we should see a very competitive grid tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And here are the standings after the last round. And you can see how much it has swung. You've got Jack Wells, who took a stunning victory, it has to be said, in Daytona after Matt Loveridge also charged his way from the back, but unfortunately crashed out. Spun out after he just passed him. Stian Solberg and Heiner Wilhelmsen tied on 78 points. Luis Araya, the pole sitter from last week, is now on 75 points. Loveridge in P5 to Philippus on 70. And then Lucky Brown, who led the championship going into that round, is now down in 7th. But he is here today. Josh Lane, Chase Robertson and James Wallace are your 10 LMP1 standings right there. LMP2 Pro as well, that's a pretty clear affair. Daniel Kraft is at the top there on 100, a perfect score so far. Daniel Civizabo in second, who he stole the win from on the line. Pure Sims Esports 1 and 2 there. Alexander Lauritsen not too far in behind there in P3. Brian Pigman's on 74 behind him. Matthias Burke on 65. You've got Grassetto, Foggy, Ibram, Perry, Lotterman and Nuckel. who has yet to score in this one. Daniel Croft on a perfect 100 score in the LMP2 Pro category as well. So compared with the LMP1s, the LMP1's very, very competitive this season, and it's showing at the top. But Jack Wells, I don't think it'd be too much of an understatement to say, Sam, I don't think he was expecting to lead the championship at this stage.
No, he will be delighted with how his first 2 rounds have gone. With a first and a second, there's Mork at the top of the P2 AMS. He has been superb as well, has Mork been quite dominant. Shuri, I think, started from the back at Daytona and actually had the pace to rival Mork. It was a shame he finished like 10 seconds off Mork in the end, despite starting from the back, and that's moving his way through the order, so he will certainly be a rival. There's Marks in 3rd place, Kafode and Sorensen, and Ko Sorensen, former AM champion, I think, in the Apex Racing League Master Cup Championship, so he's got a lot of pedigree. But I was looking at the results from the first couple of rounds, and Jack Wells has not picked up an incident point for the first 2 rounds of the championship, so he actually gets 2 bonus points for that. But whilst everyone else scored points in each of the races, Wells has not picked up a 1x for the entire season. It's absolutely incredible. I think it's very possible he'll continue that tonight, because it's not easy to get 1x's around this pace. It's very easy to get slowdowns, not to get 1x's. And I think that kind of sums up how Jack Wells has driven this season so far. A little bit of margin for error, but just super consistent whilst his rivals have been making mistakes.
Yeah, that is incredible, especially since we've just been at Daytona, which is also notorious for picking up, silly little 1x's in the chicanes. But here's going to be a real test for Jack Wells, see if he can keep that record running. Currently in qualifying, we're halfway through qualifying. It is Solberg, currently the quickest, ahead of DeFilippis and Loki Brown, P3, and then over the Helfson in P4. As per usual, LMP2 Pro, very, very close. It is the Pure Sim Esports guys, separated by just a 1/10 of a second, around a 3.5-minute lap here at Le Mans. It is Shuri currently ahead of Mark in the P2 AM as well, so there's still a couple laps still to come. There is Loki Brown. We know how quick this man is. He was quickest in practice, but get this, 4 seconds quicker than anybody else in practice, and his fastest time, I believe, there was a 3:09, so he dipped under the 3:10 mark, and he's coming through the Porsche curves right now in the Audi, and it looks absolutely glued to the road, Sam.
It's so weird seeing these cars because they're so tall, like compared to like single seats, which are quite flat. These things look like they're going to tip over at any point because they're so narrow and so tall, and yet they've got such downforce. It's absolutely incredible to see them out on circuit, and he is looking extremely good. Just needs to make sure that he puts in the lap. This is going to be his last attempt. He's not going to get another attempt, so he needs to make sure he doesn't pick up a slowdown, doesn't pick up a 1x, and he crosses the line, and that is easily enough. And once again, that 4-second gap, nearly 4 seconds clear of the rest of the order. He is going to be tricky to beat tonight.
What a lap from Loki Brown, 3.7 seconds quicker than Jack Wells. He even clouted the curb going into the final corner as well. Lena Wilhelmsson improved slightly. Shuri absolutely sliding that P2 around the last corner, comes across the line. Can he go quicker than he just went in that car? 3:28.0, he certainly can. And Civizawa steals pole position in P2 Pro by 0.03 of a second. That's around about the gap that he got beaten last week on the line. Really, really close to P2 Pro. That's a 3.5-minute lap separated by 3/100ths, and again under a second between the P2 AMs as well. You've got Ivan Damerich, who's coming up to the line now as well to finish his attempt as he comes through the chicane. Looks like he's backed off on that attempt as well, so he's not going to get another one, and he's just going to pull off to the side of the road here to maybe just get a bit of heat in the tires again and go if he can. Josh Lane very wide onto the Mulsanne straight, and I think he has got that 1x on the exit of that corner. So easy to do. And Daniel Croft, can he improve ahead of his teammate? He certainly can by 0.4 of a second. Daniel Croft is on pole for the P2 AMs for now. That's unless James Ibram is on a lap and can improve at the moment. But Lucky Brown, I mean, the guts of 4 seconds quicker than anybody else. I mean, at the moment, it's going to take a crash for him to be beaten today.
Yeah, and we sort of saw a similar gap back at Spa as well. I think he was about a minute clear of the rest of the drivers, so he is just a level above. But he's going to need to be pretty much faultless as Brown to the end of the season if he's going to win this title, because Wells with that first and second on the grid again. And, you know, the point system, it takes a while to get back those points. He has got the job score, so he could still end the season with a perfect score potentially, could Brown. But he... yeah, needs to kind of get these race wins in order to bring himself back into the championship. Just a reminder as well to new viewers that the P2 Pros and the P2 Ams are all on circuit with one another, and they will be battling for points against one another. So you see Shuri up ahead of Mork by a second, so that's quite a turn up for the books. Second place in the AM Championship, ahead of first place in the AM Championship, and he'll be looking to get in amongst the pro drivers as well for this race and try to get as many points as he can, as I don't think anyone else is going to get across the line. So we are coming to the end of qualifying right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to remember as well, we have got two drivers also serving qualifying bans. One of those ones is Matt Loveridge, and we know how he went last week. He came from spinning out on lap 1, making a minute back to nearly winning the thing. But let's see how he gets on. Loki Brown on pole by 3.7 seconds over Jack Wells, the current championship leader. I mean, if Jack Wells stays where he is, he'll be in good contention. Stian Solberg in P3 ahead of Thano Wilhelmsen in P4, Roberto De Filippis in P5, and Matt Loveridge, there he is in P6 ahead of Josh Lane. So he starts P6 in that category. In P1 in the P2 Pros, Daniel Kraft ahead of his teammate by 0.4 of a second, Daniel Civizabo. Those two are going to be completely inseparable once again, you would imagine. James Ibram not too far behind for Apex Tech Racing in P10. Then you have the P2 Ams. Jake Shuri gets the better of Thomas Merck this time by a second. Then you've got Matthias Burke for Apex Tech Racing behind Fabio Grassetto. Ivan Damerich, Morten Kafud, Justus Marks, Paul Klist and Christian Malcherek, who we believe will not be taking any further part in this event. But you can kind of see there, Sam, Shuri and Merck are starting to sort of make their way up towards the top of the P2 Pros, so they're making a good case if they end up racing next season to get promoted up to Pro.
Yeah, and I think Matthias Burke is a really quick driver. Is Burke a very good driver in the Porsche Cup? It's sort of where I know him from. And Grassetto as well has had some really good results, particularly Spa. He was in very good form, so now that's super impressive from Mork, who's sort of established himself already in that area of the field. But Shuri in particular, he has really taken it up. And of course, if he wants to win this amateur championship, then Shuri's another one, a bit like Brown, who has some points to make up, who needs to start to make them up fairly soon. So I think it's going to be a good battle between the two of them. I don't think Shuri's going to be able to pull away. And in that P2 field, I imagine quite a bit of slipstream tonight, Jack. So we might have a few packs for any drivers who are similarly matched on pace.
Yeah, I think so. We saw plenty of it last time out. With even in Daytona, we got bump drafting. We had plenty of slipstreams. This is going to be taken to a new extreme around Le Mans, between the P1s, the LMP2s in the P2 Pros and P2 AMs. And of course, a separation between the two classes. They head up toward the Porsche curves. They've actually got a little ways to go before they get underway here, but it's keen out for Loki Brown. You know, he's got a huge pace advantage compared to the field behind him. So all he needs to do is make sure he gets a clean start and basically goes for a flawless victory today. At the head of the field, and make sure that he doesn't get caught up in any silly instance. Daniel Kraft, he's going for 3 wins from 3, but now, you know, he's got his teammate Civizabo behind him once again. I wonder, is Civizabo going to be as accommodating this time? Will he want to be the one to sit behind this time? Well, again, we don't quite have that long run to the line this week, so we have to wait and see. We've got loads of slipstreaming opportunities for these guys this time. Be interested to see who comes out on top there, because nobody has been able to displace Daniel Kraft just yet at the front. As we head up towards the line, the pace car will peel off very late around this part of the circuit. You see the P2s beginning to form up behind as well as they snake their way through. Loki Brown getting some heat in the tyres, and he'll be maybe thinking about using a bit of boost straight away just to try and break away from the Porsche behind him. So The pace car will carry on just for a little bit more. It peels off quite late as they come to the Ford and Corvette chicanes in towards the final couple of corners we go. We've got an hour racing mandatory pit stop as well, don't forget, and it's all about the slipstream today. They'll go single file, or attempt to go single file through the last chicane up towards the line. They now have to be in the start zone. A little bit miscommunication, and there's already a crash before they've even got underway. Green flag drops. Helena Wilhelmsen, I think, was caught up in that one. Loki Brown goes through up into the lead, and straight away miscommunication at the start, and we got some cars caught up in that, and the P2s are underway with the P1 crabbing in front of them. Not what they want to see. Daniel Croft clean away already, though, under pressure. Sivi Zabo under pressure directly behind as they come up in towards turn one for the first time. Side by side, Croft trying to get away as they go side by side behind. Door gets shut on the 132 behind, and they go single file through the first chicane. But clean away, thankfully, for the P2s, but the P1s, that was a bit unusual, honestly.
Yeah, so the instructions before the race was to the launch zone was after the green end of the curbing, pretty much. I think a few drivers perhaps accelerated behind, tried to bunch back up, and of course the acceleration in these cars is so much that if the car ahead of you starts braking as well, then it's very easy to go into the back of them. But yeah, good start for Brown. In the lead of the P2s is still Kraft as they make their way past the P1s. Hopefully they'll get out of the way. That's De Philippis and Loveridge just on the inside right there, because we'll be much better on the brakes, so we'll have to take into consideration the worst performance of the P2s. Still those top three sort of in a group at the front of the P2s, and Thomas Mork, excellent start for him. He's managed to get ahead of Shuri by quite a big margin and is almost being dragged along by these top guys as well.
Yeah, he is as well. So the slipstreaming begins now. Daniel Croft being the hole puncher, and Sivi Zabo is going to be already maybe starting that bump drafting down the straight, lifting off, and you've got Ibram in behind as well, who's trying to just stay with them. Burke not too far behind, still in the draft range as they come out of the second Mulsanne chicane for the first time. Lucky Brown 2.7 seconds clear of Stian Solberg, who managed to get up to second that time. Jack Wells, we saw a clip of him just earlier on. He was desperately weaving down the straight to get some teeth in the tyres. As you know, you've got Burke just trying to get himself through in the 131. As of course you've got Mork trying to mix it up with these guys. So Burke now just trying at the moment to stay in the draft of the cars in front. So they can't afford to fight too much in this early stages. You've got the two teammates out. Oh, Solberg, and that is at Indianapolis. And that is a very common crash that happens around here, especially on lap one, cold brakes, cold tyres. And already, Sam, they're already bump drafting each other into Indianapolis.
Yeah, and that enables them to get a little bit away from Ibram. That will be their aim for the start of those races. Take the Apex Tech cars out of contention. There is Grassetto. Not a great start for Grassetto. He's still behind Shuri, behind Damerick as well. So he's actually lost that position to Damerick from the start. Grassetto not having it all his own way so far today. And you can see the field spread ahead of them. We've only really got a couple of drivers who have survived that first lap in the P2s with Solberg's instant. Everyone else is extremely far behind and will have to be moving their way through the P2s. But Brown having an easy run of it at the moment, 3.6 seconds in the lead.
Yeah, Jack Wells now back up to second, courtesy of that Solberg instant at Indianapolis, and we might be able to get us a look at what happened actually. So we're on board. This was Matt Loveridge, who once again gets caught up on lap one. So he decides to go and just committed and did not see that the cars in front hadn't started yet. And once again, Matt Loveridge ends up in the wall on lap number one, and that was a little bit unfortunate because I suppose he assumed that they'd already gone and then realised too late that the cars in front were still at a crawl, and unfortunately collected another car in that. So that's that is unfortunate, but again the start was in the hands of Loki Brown, so it's all about being careful in that early phase. But unfortunate for the car in front that got collected as well.
Yeah, unfortunately the drivers of course have a fast repair spare, so they'll be able to... Ooh, as we've got an instant just behind, that's Damerick. It needs to rejoin carefully. I think that was just about carefully enough as he gets... I think that was gravel coming from the car. That's quite smart. Wow, 3 wides going into this. Grassetto down the inside. And, well, you know what, actually? Grassetto was making the apex. and I think was it Shuri who
think it
sort of
was,
didn't leave
yeah.
him room on the inside.
I think it was. It looked like Shuri anyway, and well, Grosseto was committed up the inside and got collected. That was a bit close right there, as we had a car just pull off to the right-hand side. Damerick there possibly serving a slowdown there, as we had a car tow back to the pit lane, back up to the front of the P2 field. It's still Daniel Croft and Sivi Zabo, and they have managed to break away from James Ibram behind, which is crucial. So Sivi Zabo is being the bulldozer at the moment, pushing his teammate down the straight, the extra boost of power, and will also be helping Sivi Zabo to save some fuel, and to a certain extent Daniel Croft as well, helping him save fuel without having to put too much effort into accelerating down the straight. But we're 5 minutes in, we've already had plenty of incidents across the board here, and P2 pros are thankfully keeping themselves nice and close together up the front to make sure that we have some entertainment tonight as they come into the Mulsanne corner. And these two, they were in a very similar situation last week, albeit completely reversed. It was Croft pushing Zabo last week for that one. Here's the position changes. Actually, Josh Lane is up the most positions, up 3 places from where he started. And Matt Loveridge now, he's 1:20 behind, Sam. Now, normally we would call him out, but last week he came from that far behind to nearly win.
Yes, yeah, so I think, yeah, maybe P3. I mean, Solberg and Wells, I think, are quite similar pace, judging by Daytona. But I think he'll certainly catch up to Lane. I mean, Lane was in good form, to be fair, in qualifying last time out, wasn't he? He was 3rd place. He was going to inherit the lead on that one when the leaders collided. But then he seemed to struggle, made quite a few mistakes after that, did Lane. So I'm not quite sure how that battle with Loveridge is going to go. I feel like he might finish in 5th place. He might finish in 2nd place by the end of this event. And the fact, of course, they didn't do qualifying also doesn't help us to learn actually how fast he is out on circuit. So yeah, keep an eye on that. I imagine the gap to Brown will continue to increase, but the gap to the others will be coming down lap after lap. Still got 53 minutes to go.
Yeah, still plenty of time to go in this race. So we've got James Ibram, who's sort of in the middle of nowhere at the moment. He's fallen out of the draft, the car's in front, but he has got 2 seconds to the next car behind, which is Burke, who's also kind of in their own kind of area as well. So they're trying to get back up to the draft. They come across the line. Daniel Croft with the fastest lap of the race, just by 1/10 of a second, but they're lapping it about 1 second quicker than the cars behind. Croft just now edging it out to 4/10 to 5/10 of a second, but that gap will come down on the Mulsanne for sure. Mark on a 3:32, I think, was his previous lap, and Shuri just 4.5 seconds off at the moment. So still some work to do for Shuri, but again, anything can happen in these races. And look, ran 7.3 up the road from this man, Jack Wells. But I don't think Jack Wells is going to be too displeased from where he is, because well, if he stays where he is, he's going to keep extending his championship lead.
Yeah, exactly. And he's doing all he can, is Wells at the moment. We'll keep an eye on his instant rate, and hopefully he hasn't picked one up yet. Because if viewers weren't around earlier on today, we were talking about how Jack Wells, 1st and 2nd in the 2 meetings so far this season, and hasn't picked up an instant point so far, and got a good chance of keeping it up. Drivers do get 1 bonus point for not picking up any incidents, so it is worth doing, but when you get 50 points for a race win, it does pale into insignificance. But I mean, we always say it could come down to a couple of points by the end of the season, and Wells is picking them up impressively. A couple of battles going on out there. Of course, we've got the Kraft Sivi Sabo race going on. Damick has got past Marks, so they are the 2 German drivers out on track, not teammates. Certainly their liveries don't match up and their team names don't match up, which is usually a very good indicator. And Damick, after that incident earlier on, did not need to take repairs, well, and no wonder he didn't need to take repairs, because his pace seems good, and he is back up to 5th place and will be chasing down Paul Clist, who I think he'll quite soon dispatch.
Yeah, he's got about a 3-second gap up to Paul Clist at the moment. As they come down towards the Mulsanne corner, these two very close together. There is Paul Clist just up in front of them in the 292 machine. and they're beginning to edge the gap. It's sort of Morten Kofod is the man who's sort of really in the middle of nowhere in the P2 AM category. He's got loads of time to the cars behind, and a gap of 10 seconds up to the next car roughly, which is Jake Shuri, as they come across to head down towards the run to Indianapolis. And you can see here now some traffic for Kofod. This is Loveridge getting past, and we'll see now how Matt Loveridge's pace sort of matches up now, because this is actually going to be kind of the first representative time we're going to see from him. Right now, by the looks of where the gap was, he's sort of on par with Loki Brown at the moment. He lost about a second to him on this lap so far, so it'll be interesting to see how he stacks up compared to the man out front who was leading the championship until the previous round. Took the opening race win. Next race win went to Jack Wells, and Loveridge very nearly had it last time, but unfortunately came a cropper after his own unfortunate error. So let's see what Loveridge is able to do now. So this is just going to be a sort of a gauge for us to see if he's going to be able to catch anybody in front of him within the next sort of 50 minutes or so. So it looks like he is pushing on. So let's see what the time's going to be for him. 3:13 points. They're sort of on pace with the guys up in front, but still nobody's able to match the pace of Loki Brown. He's sort of about a solid 30 seconds a lap faster than anybody.
Yes, yeah, so Brown 2.5 seconds faster, but Loveridge was a 1.5 seconds faster than Wells, 3.5 seconds faster than Solberg. That's positive news for him, and 2 seconds faster than Lane. Now, of course, what you've got to remember is this is a very long circuit, and so what would normally be 2 seconds is maybe not actually that impressive around a circuit like this, or not as large around a circuit like this. But yeah, there'll be mistakes and there'll be slowdowns, won't there? And that will be something that which we'll be able to take advantage of. So I think Solberg and Lane, very possible. Wells seems very secure in that second position as it stands at the moment. And also I did watch back that incident for Loveridge last week, and I have got to put out a public apology because it was actually my fault, because I cursed him. I think I was saying some very nice things about Matt, and then he proceeded to spin. So I apologise to him. I apologise to Olympus Esports for denying that race victory for himself. It was absolutely not his fault, as Klist gets overtaken by Damerick, and we were expecting that one to come. Now I wonder if Damerick will be able to catch up to Kofod. I think Mork and Shuri have got those top 2 places in the bag, but Kofod might be catchable.
Yeah, maybe. And the nice thing, I suppose, for us in the P2 AM category is that Shuri is catching Mork at quite a rate as well. He's going very, very quickly. Remember, he did qualify about a second faster in qualifying compared to him, so he's certainly very much catchable as well. These two very much glued together as they were last week. Ooh, Justus Marks. That would be in the first Mulsanne chicane, I think that is, for Justus Marks. Looks like it doesn't have any damage, which is a bonus, but let's see what happened here, Sam.
Yeah, I imagine he's just taken too much speed in. Oh, no, he's actually locked the rears on corner entry. You don't see that too much, and then just making the situation worse was the gravel on the outside. Then does a fairly dangerous rejoin, and almost 2 dangerous rejoins, which is impressive stuff. Fortunately, avoids both cars, and he's back on his way. Is the German driver? That's such a common mistake. I don't know about you, Jack, but I really dislike those chicanes. I know that they're meant to be quite flowing, and it's maybe better than having quite a short radius chicane, but I just find them an absolute pain, if I'm honest. I really struggle with them. If I'm honest, and I'm going to upset a few people here, and I upset quite a few people 2 weeks ago. John knows what I'm talking about. But I don't really like driving the circuit. I don't mind it to watch, but I really dislike driving around this track. But I don't know if you're going to back me up here, Jack, or absolutely slate me.
I mean, I'm going to be a sort of in between there because I do enjoy driving it, but every time I have driven here, that's Mork over the top of the sausage curve as we were talking about how terrible this circuit was, and collects Shuri in the meantime as well as he comes through the final chicane. I was about to say that's the worst corner on this circuit, and the two of them have collided, and Morten Kafud can hardly believe his luck now because up he comes to take a position away from Shuri, and surely also take the lead of the P2AM category. So there's your argument, Sam. It's perfectly valid.
Oh my goodness me. What damage has Mork got? I mean, that is so unlucky to get that amount of damage from that contact. And there's Mork. Well, he was very slow initially. How is he doing now? I wonder if we could ride on board with him. Doesn't look that bad, but because if you get a hit in the tyre, seems all right. Or maybe it might be the rear corner, which wouldn't be so obvious to see. Now his pace seems to be quite good. He's still dropping time to Kafode. Let's see what it's down the straight. Not that bad. I'm not sure what's going on there with Mork. He seems to drop a lot of speed initially, but he now seems to be back up to pace. But that is incredible. The two championship rivals, the two teammates colliding. Apologies, they're not teammates, are they? But they collided right there, and this was the initial mistake which kicked it all off right over the sausage curve, and then he tried to get it stopped, and then just collected his rival.
That is so unlucky for Shuri. I think what he was doing there was just slowing down to give Shuri the position back, but then Shuri towed back to pit lane, and now it seems like Morten Kafud now has the lead. I would also imagine Mork has probably got some horrible floor damage now as well from that cloud of the sausage curb as well. These cars are very, very sensitive to that. So you would imagine there's quite a lot of nasty damage on Mork's car, which he should be able to get repaired, or attempt to get repaired when he comes into pit lane. But again, it's sort of unpredictable. Maybe he managed to avoid it, but yeah, really unfortunate for Shuri especially. Now, he has come back out onto the circuit as well, but well, as we were talking about how you hate this circuit, I was about to say that I hate the last two corners. And oh, Kafud really dropped it. Well saved, Morten Kafud, as he comes into the Mulsanne corner. Every time we talk about this circuit or attempt to say our arguments for why or why it isn't good, somebody nearly crashes and sort of backs up our arguments. The last two corners especially, very, very tricky. I don't like them at all because as you saw with Mork, it's very easy to get it wrong and can be race ending. Also, the Mulsanne corner is very, very hard to get right because it's a very, very high speed corner. You've got to try and get it stopped. And without spinning, Kafud managed to stop it, thankfully, just in time before it rotated. But I do like the circuit, that's the thing. But the problem is, every time I talk, that is an LMP1 going backwards into Indianapolis at the same time. What should we just stop talking, Sam? We need to stop talking about this circuit. Wilhelmsen backwards into Indianapolis at quite a high rate of speed. Let's see what's going on here. So we're focusing on the P2s in front. Comes into Indianapolis and onto the grass, and round she goes. It looks like he sort of gave up mid-corner. And unfortunately, that's him out, and he has disconnected as well. So that was a race-ending collision for Elena Wilhelmsen. But plenty has just happened in the past couple of minutes or so. But to summarise, I do and don't like this circuit, and we'll stop there.
Oh, there you go. Well
there
done.
we go. There we go again. What is going on? Josh Lane gets back underway. Now, he's spun out of the second Mulsanne, but it looks like he's managed to survive without damage. Has he? I'm not sure. But let's watch as he comes into the chicane. Gets it stopped for the first part at the very least. Turns it into the second part. And
ooh, that's a hardware thing, I think.
That's a hardware problem. Yeah, that's definitely. I think that's something like a. That looks to me, Sam, like he's lost force feedback halfway through the corner. As he brakes, sort of comes in here, gets to turn into the left, and the car just kind of keeps going left, and he has to stop it. And he did very well to keep it out of the wall there. And I think he may have lost force feedback there. That's what that looks like to me. Yeah,
it's a good shout. Yeah, so yeah, like you said, did well not to crash on that occasion. I'm surprised that Loveridge. Oh, no, apologies. Loveridge is, yeah, he's about the same distance back. I thought he lost like 10 seconds, but sometimes our timing screen comes up a little bit ambiguous. But yeah, Loveridge, that will help him along. We'll encourage him to catch up. Good news for Solberg. More secure now in that P3. And good pace actually for Solberg recently. He's got back into the 14s. He's just set his fastest lap of the race as Stein Solberg. so Loveridge still catching him by about 3 seconds a lap, but I don't think that will be enough to catch by the end of the race. I think it'll be a little bit too far to make up that amount of time. I think my problem, and I am tempting fate here, with the instance. I think my problem with the circuit is that you have to run so little rear wing for the straights that when you get into this section, which is actually very good, the Porsche curves, and you know the other corners as well. I mean the Mulsanne chicanes aren't that bad either. You just have no rear grip, and so it's so easy to lose the rear end, and it just becomes extremely tricky to not crash pretty much. And even Indianapolis as well, you would really appreciate some downforce on this part of the circuit, but you do not have it. Let us know what your thoughts are. The track is in the chat. Also, Jonathan Grabowski saying Jack and Sam, my favourite and least favourite ARTV commentators. I think that's a bit harsh to Jack there, Jonathan. I mean, I don't think you need to say that he's your least favourite commentator. But there you go. Just wanted to say that to Jonathan. That's a little bit appropriate. I'm sorry about that, Jack. Only apologise.
No, that's completely on Jonathan there. That's why he's decided to nearly try and cause a rift in the commentary box here, but we will not let him have it. Either way, as we get back to, as we were talking about Porsche curves right here, you know, also my problem, as I've had over the years with Le Mans, is I suppose putting in a lot of time to practice. You know, it's a long lap round here, and if you crash, you've got to start all over again. It's a long lap. My problem is putting in a lot of practice and getting taken out on lap 1. I digress. As we go back to the battle right here between Daniel Croft and Daniel Civizabo, 328.9, 328.9. Absolutely spot on between each other, about a second, well, close to a second lap faster than James Ibram. Ibram not lapping too far off them, actually, 329.4, and a sort of holding station about 4 seconds behind, so he's still very much in contention. Could maybe go for an undercut if he's feeling brave. We still got a bit of time until we reach the pit stop phases. The LP1s will more than likely pit before the P2s. P2s can go a little bit further on the fuel, but of course around here you gotta be very careful with your fuel as Mork gets overtaken by Dame Rate, and it looks like he may have had an instant because he's dropping down the timing order very quickly. He's actually come into pit lane, and let's see now if he is going to take a fast repair here. Other than that, I'm assuming that's what's happening here.
Yeah, can he get to the end of the race from here? I think that's too far on fuel. This is a very high fuel consumption circuit, as he's actually spun it. That might be a penalty. I don't know. I always, in my head, it's really strict around there, but I think it's actually really lenient. I can't remember ever getting a penalty on pit road, so it may let him get away with it, or it might be a 40-second penalty. I'm not quite sure. Basically, this has gone very badly for Mork. Shuri is going to overtake him, I think, despite towing back to the pits. That's interesting. So Shuri didn't tow to the end of the next lap because he towed basically on the start-finish line, didn't he? I thought he was going to tow on to the next lap, but he actually only towed on to the lap he already was, so that limited the tow time. And so I think that's helped him a bit, but Mork is still ahead. So I'm not sure if he... So Mork will not go to the end of the race from here. Well, 20 seconds? Is that enough fuel to get to the end? Maybe it is. I'm not quite sure, but I think Mork and Shuri will be marginal. Will be marginal if they can get to the end.
Yeah, I don't think there's a chance in hell of Thomas Mork getting to the end of this race, but he's going to have to fuel save like no tomorrow to get to the end of the race, because from my own experience, it's about 35 odd minutes that you can make it on fuel on an LMP2 if you're pushing hard. So he's going to have to basically drive at a very, very slow speed for the next 40 odd minutes to get to the end. He's going to be a very, very, very marginal on this one. So if he manages to save a whole lap, which he may be able to do, I may eat my words. Let's wait and see. You have to remember, I've never finished Le Mans, whether out of my own incompetence.
You don't know how long the fuel goes. You never use the tank.
Well, you know, I've made it close to a full tank. Let's put it that way. You know, and it was around that margin. So Let's see. But it could still be possible for Thomas Mork, but he will have to field save a lot. Is basically the crux of the problem here. Lucky Brown's having a nice time out front, 25 seconds clear of the next car, and also Jack Wells is also about nearly 25 seconds in front of the next car. So the P1's very, very spread out, but nobody's looking like they're going to stop this man out front this week. But Jack Wells going to be very content where he is in P2, and also Solberg, he's on for another podium if he stays where he is. But Josh Lane is actually not too far off him. That's 17 seconds off the back of this one. So we still got some time to go on this one, but obviously the two closest cars at the moment is a big surprise is Daniel Croft and Daniel Civisabo, who are still only a couple of car lengths between each other since the very, very start. And we have had drama throughout. We've had Mork and Shuri collide, the two championship rivals in P2 AM. Morten Kafud is out front now, with Ivan Damers running in his best position so far, P2. And Justus Marks, who was who I think had a spin earlier on, is now actually in a podium position, just in front of Paul Klist in P4. So funny how that's all worked out. And Lucky Brown sets another time. That is 3:11.9. So it sort of shows how he's sort of cruising around, because his pole time was a 3:08.9. So he's just he's in a very, very comfortable position now. It's the fastest man on the circuit without even trying, and that's a nice position to be in as Daniel Civisabo decides, I've had enough. It's my turn to punch a hole in the air in front of Daniel Croft.
Yeah, he's a nice guy like that. It's the Hungarian, and a little bit of a gap actually being formed with the P1 moving through the middle of them as well. Kraft, even if he did lose the draft, I think, well, the first 2 rounds Kraft has been the fastest driver, particularly Spa. He was definitely faster. Daytona it looks a lot closer, but you just see the amount of time that he gains down that one straight, and he's right back into the mix. There was an overtake, by the way, for Marks on Klist. I don't know if you could see that. That was on the previous lap. Did you mention that already, actually, Jack?
Or... I did mention he was in third, but I didn't actually catch the overtake. But it was yeah, it has been done. So Marks, who did spin, is now back up into third. Now the interesting thing for me is whether Kraft is now going to repay the favour and start bump drafting Civisabo, or if he wants his position back. But this is eerily similar to what happened in Daytona. Civisabo decided to take the lead for a little while, and Kraft managed to undercut. So it'll be interesting to see what happens between these two as we sort of begin to approach at the pit stop phases. We've got maybe about 2 laps or so before these guys will be sort of in their window. The P1s will be a little bit closer to it now, maybe another lap or 2 for them before they're in their pit stop window. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But I don't think there's going to be any major changes there in the P1s. The major ones here is going to be between these two. Who's gonna jump into pit lane first out of everybody here as we approach the halfway mark. It's gone by very, very quickly, and we have had plenty happen in that short space of time as well. So will we see Daniel Croft get 3 in a row, or will we see Civisabo finally unseat him? There is Paul Klist running comfortably 4th at the moment, but who is getting caught by Thomas Mork at the moment, who has pitted and will be, I would imagine, in full fuel conservation mode to the end right now. So we'll see if he's able to do that. It'll be impressive if he does, because he's going to be nearly pushing it towards 40 minutes on a tank of fuel right there. But certainly in the right management, he can certainly do it. The only person he's got behind him is Shuri, who had to pit very, very early, and Shuri's going to have to obviously pit again. So that's going to be sort of a secure P5 for him. I think all he needs to do is make sure that he outscores Jake Shuri, as Loki Brown sets the fastest lap of the race on this time by 3:10.5, and you would imagine it'll be within the next lap or so we're going to start seeing P1s in. Well, right on cue, Josh Lane has come into
I
pit
think that's a
lane,
toe.
and I don't think that is a scheduled stop. I think that's a toe.
But his car seems very clean, but he's got a car worryingly close here. He's going through a dangerous part of the track, and he has made a mistake. And, oh, has he gone into Narnia? Maybe he's gone into Narnia there. And crashed into like a tree and teleported back. Let's see. I don't think you can get out of the track from here. If so, you've got to question the security of the circuit. No, there is just a lane down there, isn't there? So he goes down the lane, he keeps the car clean, but tows back to the pits. Well, in actual fact, that was probably the best situation that he could do there. I didn't realise that lane was there. I don't know if you actually saw that one, Jack, but yeah, it turns out you can just like go into the forest around the circuit.
That is, I knew that escape road was there, but I didn't know that it would teleport you back to the pit lane. 'Cause that's the same escape road that Wilhelmsen went backwards down earlier on, but I didn't think that it was possible for that to happen for Josh Lane there. There is, I've just sort of just let a look at the replay there. There is just a gap in the barrier there that I didn't know was there, and it's obviously sent him into the Shadow Realm, brought him back to the pit lane. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But he's found something that I didn't know was there, which is nice to know for the future. Don't go down that escape road. There's your lesson for today, viewers at home.
I really do wish, and this is such like an unnecessary thing for iRacing Squad, but if you could like explore like the innards of the circuit, the infield of the circuits, and just like drive around basically and have like collisions with again trees and people and just run them over. Maybe I shouldn't be playing iRacing. Maybe there's other games which can cater to that need. But it would be fun to explore the service roads that they could model. But yep, please add that. iRacing would be that. I mean, I don't know, something like that. I don't know if you get that same feeling, Jack, but that would just be that'd be so cool if you could go out of bounds of the circuit.
That sounds to me like you want to find more toilets to put cams on, to me, Sam. So it'd be good for yourself to get us more interesting camera angles, I suppose, if you could explore. I don't think it's ever been. I think there was a game I remember playing back on PlayStation where it was possible. You just had to sort of break physics to do it, but you could drive around the back of the old Hockenheim, sort of crash into the gantries and stuff. That was sort of entertaining.
That's so cool.
That was Project Cars 2, by the way. If you hit one of the barriers hard enough in the arena, you can flip yourself out and sort of drive around the infield. So if you want to try that, go ahead. That's my tip of the day. As Matthias Burke comes in for his scheduled stop, you would imagine, sort of an early-ish stop for the P2s there, but he is going to be safe to the end there, you would imagine, when he does come out eventually. And Josh Lane, after being sent to the Shadow Realm, is now safely back out on the circuit, and will probably be a little bit annoyed that he's ended up where he was, as Morten Kafud from the lead pits for his scheduled stop as well. So you have Ivan Damer, who's carried on. He now leads, and Burke now on the way out of the pit lane. So now this lap is sort of the crucial lap here, because this is going to be between Daniel Civizabo and Daniel Kraft. You would imagine that they're probably going to pit on the same lap at this stage, unless one of them has managed to save a full extra lap of fuel in that first stint, which is we don't know if they have yet. So let's wait and see. But at the moment, it looks to me like Civizabo and Daniel Kraft are going to be pitting on the same lap.
Yeah, I think they'll both be pitting on this lap. I doubt the likes of Burke would have pitted one lap early with a lap spare in their tank. I imagine they just would have run it as far as they can. So I think these guys and a few others as well have been able to save that little bit of fuel. Must be quite close on the cusp. And this is good news actually for Burke's, apologies, not Burke's chances, Mork's chances, because he needed to go, I think, 36 minutes. I think he came out of the pits about on the 23-24 minute mark. So I think it is just going to be one lap of fuel that he has saved rather than two, albeit, you know, who knows what's going to happen with the P1s getting involved. Might force him to do one more lap than he thinks, but it seems to be possible, at least for Mork. I doubt it's going to be possible for Shuri. Certainly doesn't seem like Shuri is fuel saving at the moment. Got quite good pace. But yeah, these two should come into the pits on the same lap. And honestly, I guess it's been Civi Sabo who's been behind a little bit longer, hasn't it? But I don't think enough to make a big difference in the pit stall. And they'll be in the Discord with each other as well. So I imagine they will put in exactly the same amounts of fuel when they come to a stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you mentioned Mork, actually, for whatever reason, I thought he'd pitted much earlier. So when you said that he's got to make 36 minutes, yeah, that's 100% doable. So he is definitely in with a chance, but he will, as I mentioned, need to save fuel, and I'm sure he has been doing that. What would help was if he's able to get in the draft of somebody. That'd be a massive help to him as they come down towards the chicane now, and you've got all the leaders pitting at once. Civi Zabo, and you've got Loki Brown in behind them, and Daniel Kraft, who actually got sandwiched in between. Make sure not to speed into the pit lane as well. That is a horrible pit entry as well, coming into there as well. Very easy to get wrong as they file their way down pit lane. Loki Brown with a 36-second lead in front of Jack Wells, and Jack Wells also has not pitted. Would also like to point out, he's gone under the radar again. Loveridge is third, and he's made his way back up in front of Solberg. Now he does have to pit, he will have to pit again, but even so, he's still very much in with a shot here. So now here's the crucial stop. The two of them almost next to each other in the pit box. You would imagine Civi Zabo is going to come out in front. James Ibram is also very much in there as well, so we'll see how he's able to deal with it. All three of them in a row. They haven't moved from where they started really, as they sit and wait, the horrible long wait for the fuel to get put in. Loki Brown on his way out of the pit lane, and you can see there Civi Zabo well clear of Kraft, and he's actually managed to open that gap out in the pit lane. So Civi Zabo very much now in control, and he has opened that gap out quite significantly. Look at that as they come out of pit lane.
Yeah, 2.25 seconds faster on pit road there was Civi Sabo, and he had about 0.4 of a second, or way closer to a second actually, coming into the pit. So that's where he's got a 3.3 second lead now. So if Civi Sabo is going to win this race, he can just outpace Kraft to the end, and he will be alright. He is out of the draft region, and so if he's faster than Kraft, this is his opportunity to pull away. But judging by qualifying and judging by the first two races of the season, it does seem as though Kraft has got a little bit more pace. Kafo just moving ahead of Klist, as Klist not made. Klist now coming into the pits, isn't he? Damick is also into the pits. He was about 10 seconds behind Kafode before the pit stop. He is now just exiting his pit stall now, but you can see he's got a while to go, so I don't think there's any difference in that gap. And Mork is now 5.6 seconds behind Kafode, so well, this is going to be interesting. Now they are teammates as well, are the top two. Important to consider that. Shuri is now there, so actually the top four in the P2 AMs have magically got fairly close to one another. Crazy how Shuri is still in contention for this race win after that tow, but yeah, he was just so close to the pit lane that I guess the tow only cost him like 30 seconds or something. It's absolutely mad, but he may have to take an extra pit stop, of course.
Yeah, we assume that he is going to have to take a pit stop, an extra one, because he hasn't pitted yet from his previous one, unless he's done some mega fuel saving over the past stint or so, but I'm not sure he has, so we'll wait and see. But as you can see, Loki Brown, 2.3 seconds behind Jack Wells, and the key point here is that Jack Wells also has not pitted yet, so Loki Brown is that far in front of anybody that Jack Wells now is going to probably peel into pit lane this time by to take his scheduled pit stop. And he's gone quite far, actually. I have to give Jack Wells props there. He's gone very far on that fuel stint in the Porsche, in close to 40 minutes, so he's going to be very safe to the end. But just shows you how the sheer pace of Loki Brown has put him nearly a full pit stop in front around Le Mans, which is very impressive. That's also inside, or just over, after about half an hour of racing, he's almost a full pit stop in front of anybody, which is incredible pace from Loki Brown in the Audi. I'm up towards the pit lane now. You'd imagine Jack Wells going to peel off to the right-hand side to take his pit stop. There he goes, and Loki Brown will overtake him on the way through and will now extend it to a monumental lead to the end right now. So impressive stuff from Loki Brown, and the fact he's done that in about 38, 39 minutes is that's one of the most impressive drives I've seen.
Yeah, he's just very good, isn't he? Is Loki Brown. It helps when you're that fast. So I do resent him slightly due to my jealousy, but yeah, good for him. And you're right, he is absolutely miles ahead of the rest. Wells, well, a little bit surprising with Loveridge. So Loveridge, according to my screen, took a 4-second stationary stop. I don't know if you can see that same thing, Jack, but he pitted when you'd expect to pit. Like, he didn't like pit especially early, but he was, yeah, stationary for only 4. Oh, and he is going to have to pit again. So he's already pitted. I guess took a fast repair, and then it's going to have to pit again. So this is ruining. Apologies, no, I'm being thick. I'm being very thick. I'm sorry everyone, because he of course had the problems earlier on, didn't he? And now this is his first proper pit stop. So apologies. Don't mention what I've just said for the last 30 seconds. He is now coming in for his one and only pit stop, and we'll see if he can catch up to the rest.
Yeah, so now his battle is with this man, Stian Solberg, for the podium. You would imagine he has got a very large gap to De Philippis, so he's secure in 4th, you'd imagine. But Matt Loveridge once again working his way from the back up to 4th, but now on his way down the pit lane. Let's see if he can catch Stian Solberg for 3rd place and steal the podium away from the Norwegian, who scored a podium last week as well. Also finished 3rd in that, and is still sort of working his way into or close to championship contention, actually, just by being consistent throughout the season. So doing a good job. The gap, by the way, at the end of the pit stops, Loki Brown and Jack Wells, 45 seconds is the gap between those two. And the gap, which was 0.4 of a second between Sivi Zabo and Daniel Kraft, is now 4 seconds, which has opened out very significantly. So really very good job by Daniel Sivi Zabo to open that gap out. He is desperate for a win. He is making sure that it's not getting stolen off him this week. After getting stolen off him by 4/100ths of a second last time out at Daytona. So he's going to try and break the, break the streak of Daniel Kraft this week. And let's see. We've also we've got to keep an eye also on our P2 AMs, because Morten Kafud as well trying to secure himself a victory this season as well. But I suppose the key point we're trying to keep an eye on there is whether Mork can actually make it to the end. He's going to be very, very marginal. It's going to depend on how many laps, whether Loki Brown crosses the line in time for him or not. And I'm watching that Shuri has brought the gap to Damerick down to about 2 seconds now. So he's continuing to take that gap down, but he is most certainly due another stop, as we have actually got a battle here in the LMP1s between De Philippis and Josh Lane. I imagine this is going to be quite quick for Josh Lane, as Lane has got good pace. He's just ended up in the Shadow Realm this week.
Yeah, and he does seem to make a couple of mistakes, does Josh, because he made a couple of mistakes at Daytona as well, didn't he? But I think that Shadow Realm instant was sort of the only one, as he comes back in and he appears alongside. Some teleportation going on there for Lane. Got Buckinghamshire broadband right there, and he was not able to make that move. De Philippis maybe just getting on the boost button halfway down the straight, but of course if you do that, you leave yourself very vulnerable for the next straight, as we've got Justus Marks off the circuit. He has already had a problem actually at that chicane. That looks like a different incident. This time though, Lane is going to power ahead of De Philippis, who doesn't have any response, it seems.
Well, there's the move anyway for Josh Lane up into P5 ahead of De Philippis. So he's made that move stick this time, as De Philippis decides to not take the second Mulsanne chicane, as dive down the escape road and just squeeze his car through there. It is a little bit tricky to get through there. Sometimes if you take too much speed towards it, you can very embarrassingly go into the tyre wall. Not that I have any experience doing that, of course. But De Philippis thankfully gets through safely and carries on in this race. We've only had one DNF from the LMP1s, that was Lena Wilhelmsen earlier on. We've had one DNF from the P2 Pros in Fabio Grassetto, and Maltarek as well from the P2 AMS, who's also DNF'd from this, or did not start this race. As here is Shuri, who's caught up to Ivan Daimrich. This is the battle for third in class, very important points, but we are under the impression that Jake Shuri is going to have to pit again because there's still another 15 minutes to go. He towed back to pit lane very early, and Daimrich is just going to let him have it as he comes into the first chicane, locks it up going in. Daimrich is going to obviously go around the outside again and take the position right back, but Shuri about 2 seconds a lap quicker than Daimrich, should have it down the Mulsanne. But obviously now Shuri's car is going to feel great right now. He's going to have very low fuel load, and he's basically trying to, I suppose, secure himself for fourth place. I think would be a good result for Shuri despite having to tow back earlier on.
Yeah, it's a weird one actually, because at least when I first saw it, as he's on the outside here, seems to have enough momentum. I think Daimrich is not even worth fighting this one, honestly, considering that we're fairly certain that Shuri's got to pit again. But yeah, when I first realised that he towed like 10 meters instead of 7 miles, or however long this circuit is, I thought that was going to be an advantage. But actually, if he had towed around that entire lap, he may have been able to exit the pits and not require another pit stop. So he was actually a bit unlucky there, or Shuri, just with the timings. However, saying that, he did spin and crash into his rival. So I think if you're going to feel sorry for anyone, you probably got to feel sorry for Mork on that occasion when yeah, Shuri, apologies, no, it was Mork who spun into Shuri, wasn't it? If I recall correctly, Mork was the lead driver, and he spun, and then Shuri just got collected. So actually, no, feel double sorry for Jake Shuri, because he did nothing wrong, and he was unlucky with his tow as well. And yeah, this is going to be annoying for him when he does have to pit with 5 minutes to go, and have to put in that little bit of fuel just gets him over the line. And of course, it's a very long pit lane as well around this circuit. You lose a lot of time. So yeah, frustrating for Jake in a race where it looked like he was going to be able to make up some points on his main championship rival.
Yep, as he was the pole sitter, of course, by about a second. So he is quick. He was very unfortunately caught up in an incident earlier on with Thomas Mork, and was very unlucky. Of course, he was collected as they exited the gravel. But what this has done is open the door for Morten Kofod to try and break the streak of Thomas Mork, which is what I suppose the theme of today is breaking the streaks. Daniel Kraft currently about to be beaten by Daniel Sivizawa if it carries on like this, and Morten Kofod has had the race lead handed to him on a platter and has held on to it very nicely ever since. So of course we had Thomas Mork take 2 victories out of 2 so far, but so it's been Danish domination, and if Kofod stays where he is, it's going to stay that way if he carries on. But it would be nice to see a new winner in the P2 AMS, and also in the P2 Pros. Daniel Sivizawa, of course, is no stranger to race victories. Remember back maybe a couple of seasons ago, he was actually in when we had LMP1 Pro and LMP1 AM. Daniel Sivizawa was one of the quick guys in the LMP1 AM category, and is very quick, mixing it up in the P2 Pros as well with his teammate Daniel Kraft. But right now, Morten Kofod doing enough to try and secure himself a first victory.
Yeah, it's and yeah, he's just been solid, hasn't he, Kofod, throughout this race. And surprised Mork hasn't come back at him quicker, especially seeing that Mork has got a clean car as far as we're aware. He would have taken the faster pair earlier on, so quite sure why he hasn't quite had the same pace, because he seemed to be pulling away from Kofod quite easily earlier on. But no, Morten is doing really well. Gap is coming down by about half a second a lap, but that is a very small margin. That's like basically the equivalent of 2/10 around any other circuit. And so if it continues like this, Kofod looks like he's going to take the race victory. A couple of shout outs, by the way, to a couple of our sponsors. Well, first up, not really a sponsor, but the organisation that sets up these leagues, Apex Racing League, have a couple of new series happening. So tomorrow will be the first round of the Apex Racing Academy Formula 4 Championship. And then in 9 days' time is going to be the Apex Racing League Super Trucks Week 13 special event. literally the best card chat
Do
combination
not miss
ever
that.
for that one. Free entry as well, so you can join that. And also the Apex Racing League GT3 Trophy, new season of that starting in about a week and a half's time, and that's already got a fair few sign-ups, so you can join any of those leagues, any of those events by visiting apexracingleague.com, as Mark's just kept past close, by the way, for 5th position. Yeah, visit apexracingleague.com, and then you can see all the leagues which are available to take part in the near future. You can even take part in this league if you want. I think we'll have a discounted price. Oh dear, this was how those positions changed. Who was the P1 there who made contact with Clist, and then I think Clist has got damage? It was DeFilippis, so already I think at the back. Now I'm not sure whose fault that was. I wonder if we could get another replay of that, maybe from DeFilippis's perspective.
Yeah, a bit of an unusual one there. It's unfortunate. It's been a I suppose a terrible one for both of them. They're both running towards the back in both of their categories, and just get caught up with each other. It's just I suppose it happens towards the end there, and it's just you have to wonder what was DeFilippis's aim there. So it seemed like, considering you're sort of towards the back of the category anyway, was it necessary to come steaming up the inside?
I think, well, whenever you have an instant like that, you always think, oh, why did I? Well, I think a good attitude is exactly what you were just saying there, Jack, saying, you know, why did I do that? Wasn't worth it. Oh, Solberg has had an issue, and that has allowed Loveridge to get past. So Loveridge, I think, was on course to catch him anyway, but that has just been a catalyst. You can see already Loveridge was only a few seconds behind. With the time remaining, he would have comfortably caught and passed, but Solberg's made it a little bit easier, already turning out to the corner there, probably overheating the tyres and really struggling his way round that chicane. Big slowdown, so it's not as easy as just, you know, letting off the brakes and cutting the chicane. Otherwise you're going to get yeah, a 2 or 3 second slowdown, so try to make the corner as best he could. So Loveridge up into 3rd place. He's not going to catch up to Wells, though. He has cut that gap down by about half, I think, to Wells. I mean, it was about a minute and 15 earlier on, wasn't it? I'm sure he makes that pit stop that we anticipated will be a dull race for him from the end. So Loveridge has half that gap, but yeah, won't be close. He's still 40 seconds behind.
Yep. So just suppose mention that DeFilippis incident again. I think it was a little bit of a miscommunication error, because I suppose if you looked at DeFilippis coming into turn 1, I think he assumed that the door was open to go through, but then I think realised at the last moment, oh no, there's not a gap for a car here, and was unfortunately caught up with that one. That was the unfortunate incident. You'll see it here as they come towards sort of turn 1. He turns to see there is, I suppose, a small gap there, but the gap closes very, very fast, and that's how it ended for DeFilippis and Cole there. But I think but it was avoidable, I think, is the argument for that there, as they begin and yet another lap around here. Shuri has now dropped to about 30 odd seconds behind Denmark, so he is secure in 4th, which is still very, very impressive, considering that he had to tow back to pit lane earlier on and has had to work his way through up to where he is. But he is going to lose points to his championship rival, which is exactly what he did not want. Daniel Civizalba at the front of the P2 Pros has just extended the lead, 5.6 seconds, and he's comfortable out front. And of course, this will be still a championship points. This will be good championship points for Daniel Kraft, but his championship lead will come down ever so slightly as a result of the results today for now. And Loki Brown, well, he's nearly a minute in front of 2nd place at the moment out front, but he's got a lot of ground to make up in the championship after last week, but this will certainly give him a nice boost in points. As you can see here, Daniel Civizalba, 7.7 seconds clear and on course for his first victory this season, and has worked hard to get up there today. Very, very close with his teammate, but this week they were so evenly matched in Daytona But whatever Civizawa's pulled out of the bag in the second stint, it certainly worked at a very impressive pace.
Yeah, really good. I mean, it's been quite a large pace advantage. I don't know if Kraft maybe has got a couple of slowdowns. That could be part of the reason you get a slowdown around this circuit, and it really does kill you, particularly around, you know, this corner, for example, as we got Philippus off again. Oh, that's a lot of damage on the back of that car. I see that's not the same damage as he had previously, but I mean, running low downforce already, that will not be helping his cause. In fact, he's only 35 seconds ahead of Civizawa at the head of the P2 class at the moment. So you can see he had got that. Oh no, sorry, no, he has already got the damage. He has not made it any worse, but I mean that sort of explains the spin, doesn't it? Because he is struggling so much out there for grip at the moment. You just saw that on the replay. The SDK Gaming logo flash up. Thanks to SDK Gaming for providing some of the prizes for this series, along with providing our overlay as well. You can see the class timing tower is so good for endurance racing, particularly when you go into something like Le Mans. It is absolutely essential that you can see what is going on out on the circuit as easily as you can with SDK Gaming, because whilst you're driving, you can see the standings and the battle boxes and the weather info, the fuel calculator as well. So much stuff available via SDK Gaming. Do check them out, sdk-gaming.co.uk. Of course, also brilliant for broadcasting. And another set of prizes that the drivers get are from Apex Racing Academy, which do setups and track guides for 29 different cars on iRacing. The P2 is included in that as well, but also single-seaters, rallycross cars, a couple of the TCR cars as well. Lots covered by Apex Racing Academy. Check them out at apexracingac.com. As we see our race leader now over a minute clear of the rest of the field.
Yeah, and he's had a very nice time of it today as Logan Brown, and he's led from the beginning and has not looked back since, and has had all the chaos unfold behind him. He's had a very, very clean run of things today as he begins. He's on his 18th lap of Le Mans at the moment, and the next time he crosses the line, it'll be his final tour of Le Mans to secure himself his second win of the season and bring himself right back into title contention. As he now just hop on board with the Audi as he heads down towards the Mulsanne corner. And you can see very limited vision in these cars as he gets onto the brakes for the Mulsanne corner, turns it in nicely on the power, nice and early, 0 wheel spin, loads of boost on the way out as well, and already up to 5th gear as he heads down towards Indianapolis. This is a scary corner, especially if you're going side by side through it, because it's all about who backs out first. But it is a nice track to sort of, you have chances to relax down the straight sometimes, especially when you're in the case of Loki Brown, gets onto the brakes into Indianapolis. Very smooth on the way through, and now back on the power again into the slowest corner on the track, one of the slowest corners on the track. And just from this onboard, Sam, you can see super smooth on the wheel. No, doesn't look like he's fighting the car at all. He's very, very happy where he is.
Yeah, if you're sliding in these P1 cars, then you're certainly doing something wrong, and you'll see it again through here. Just nice smooth movements. I mean, that's insane. That left-hander, how easy that you are. Pretty much flat through that that second left-hander as well. Still open up the corner for the long rights. And then just need to make sure you don't pick up the 1X. I think if you go all 4 wheels beyond the white line, then you do pick up a slowdown around that part. And then this part, as you were saying earlier on, can be super tricky. But not too much curve being taken by Brown. Needs to clump a little bit over here. But the car absolutely sets up perfectly for that section of the course. And then you're back onto the pit straight again. Last lap then for Lockie Brown. We're not close to getting like an extra lap in, because that can cause havoc with the fuel calculators. if you cross the line with like a second to go, for example. Just seeing how far behind some of the other cars are. So that's interesting actually. So he's going to catch up some Mork, and you were saying that Mork was close on fuel. This will mean that Mork will have to do one less lap, and I wonder if that's actually quite a saviour for Mork, or whether he had enough fuel to do another lap anyway. But there he goes past. That could be quite significant. It does reduce the amount of time he's got to catch up to Cathode, but well, he's only 1.2 seconds behind Cathode now, isn't he? So Cathode's just picked up a slowdown maybe on that last lap. 3 seconds was the time difference. And we've actually got a race on our hands here because Mork is getting into the draft range.
Yeah, that has really helped out Thomas Mork right there, and it brought him right into contention to try and take a third victory out of nowhere. Loki Brown, by being so far in front of everybody else, has given Thomas Mork a chance at a win here, and he is certainly in the slipstream of Morten Cathode out in front. Is it going to be another case of getting a win stolen in the final few laps? Once again, he's getting dragged closer and closer, but he has got limited opportunities to try and pass right here. And you can see, even on the brakes through the corner there, Cathode gaining back the time he lost on the straight there. And Cathode's going to be desperate to hang on to this now. They are on their final laps of Le Mans right here. Timer ticks over the 1 hour mark, and I think it may have just come a tiny bit too late for Thomas Mork, unless there's any mistakes from Cathode out front here onto the power. And he is certainly very close, Cathode, all the way to the right hand side. He's going to maybe do a little bit of weaving right here, but I think Cathode might just have just enough here to try and stay in front, because you got to remember Mork's going to be thinking about his fuel usage as well. There goes Josh Lane, who may be able to help here, drag him up a little bit more. Gap is reducing very, very quickly. It's going to be a little bit awkward for Josh Lane that doesn't want to get himself involved, and Mork has to go around the outside of a P1 through Indianapolis. He's going to get back past them again. Doesn't actually want to get involved here. Does a good job there to sort of stay out of the way without sort of getting in the way of the leaders there. There is Loki Brown, who has, well, I think if there's ever a definition of domination, you just got to look at this race, because this has been a flawless display. We said earlier he's going to need a flawless display today, and this is what he's given us. Loki Brown, the Australian, started from pole with the fastest lap as well to boot. He's on his way towards the last chicane to take a brilliant, dominant victory here at Le Mans in round 3 for his team. Slowly does it through the last chicane.
He's got to slow down.
And he has got to slow down just to round it off as he heads towards the line. But he will take the checkered and win at Le Mans in this race as well. And we have seen Mork. Has he run out of fuel? I think he might run out of fuel. He has run out of fuel. It was very, very marginal, and he's trying his damnedest to get that car around to the final. But Morten Cathode breaks the streak and takes the win here in Le Mans. And we knew it was going to be marginal, but I think he's going to have to give Loki Brown a point tonight, because that extra lap has just saved his race completely. He takes second.
And Aymeric will be in third. I'm surprised Mork ran out of fuel, because he was pushing real hard on that last lap, wasn't he? And it seemed like maybe after fuel saving for a long period, I think that was why he wasn't catching up to Cathode for a while. He was just able to, you know, release the shackles and really go for it. And I thought that them being lapped kind of saved him there. He was trying to save fuel for another lap, but yeah, he would have had to make another pit stop and would have lost out to Shuri probably in all of that. So yeah, thank goodness for them being a lucky evening really for Mork in the end after that spin. Wills finishes in second place, still championship leader in the P1s. We do still have our race winners, top 3 in fact, in the P2 class still to come round. It's such a long circuit this that we are going to have to wait a little bit longer. So we'll see Matt Loveridge. He was going to get another podium after another dreadful first lap. Become a little bit of a customary thing, but crucially for Loveridge, still losing points to Wells in the championship. And yeah, it's been a tricky first 3 rounds of the championship for Loveridge. I think has had to use his fast repair in every single one.
Yeah, you talk about a terrible first lap. He didn't even make it to the first lap or across the start-finish line this time by. So he has done another good job to get himself back on the podium. But this is going to be a good feeling for this man, Daniel Civizabo, who had the win taken away from him on the very last lap, on the run to the line in Daytona. And he has pulled off a brilliant drive today. He was pushing his teammate around for the first half of this race, took the lead, had a brilliant pit stop, and is now 7 seconds clear, and is about to break the streak of Daniel Croft, who's gone 2 from 2. But this time, it's certainly not going to be Daniel Croft. It's going to be the other Daniel Civizawa, who wins at Le Mans in the P2 Pros. He'll be delighted with that, I know. Daniel Croft, again, great points. P2, and Civizawa picks up the fastest lap on the final lap of the race as well. Croft finishes second. We did lose James Ibram on the final lap, so it's actually going to be Matthias Burke who will take third place in the P2 Pros. But we're going to have to wait for him to make his way through the Porsche curves to finish this race. But we've had now new winners in P2 Pro, new winner in P2 AM, and a first repeat winner in the P1s with Lucky Brown taking that one, as well as Burke is sort of cruising towards the line. He's the last car on the circuit right now, and is just making sure he gets himself to the line. But it's a long old wait at Le Mans for everybody to come across before we can show you the official race rundown. There is Matthias Burke. He gets third in class in the P2 Pros, and that rounds out Le Mans right there and then. But a happy day for Daniel Civizawa. I think that was a long overdue win. I think he felt he deserved it after last week.
For sure, and I think after 3 rounds, I think that's a fair split between the two of them. 2 race wins for Croft. He has had at least the pace in the first 2 rounds, well, certainly the first round. I think Daytona a little bit as well. But Civizawa had the pace tonight, and a little bit surprising as well, because after that qualifying performance, it looked like it would be the other way around tonight. But so it'll be interesting to get some reflection from the pair of them in the interviews in a little bit. But there are the results. Brown at the top, 1 minute and 5 ahead of Wells, and then Loveridge in 3rd place, Solberg in 4th, Lane in 5th, and then the 8th place, apologies, I'm getting very confused, because 6th place in the P1s was De Philippis, and 7th was Wilhelmsen. Wilhelmsen was not scored points over, he was too many laps down. In the P2 Pros, Daniel Civizawa was the top of the drivers, as we were saying before, ahead of his teammate Daniel Croft. Then was Matthias Burke, very quiet day for him, ahead of his teammate James Ibram. Morton Cathode was top of the AMS, probably the best and most entertaining class, I think, tonight was the P2 AMS, ahead of his teammate Thomas Mork. Ran out of fuel, but I think it was about 5 seconds clear of Damerick in the end. Shuri, after problems which weren't really his fault, honestly, finished in a disappointing 5th place in that category. Then it was Marks and Clist rounding out. Grosseto did not, well, only completed 1 lap, did Grosseto. Disappointing news for him, being a fast start for Grosseto. He's been quick, but has not had the results so far this season to back up that impressive pace. Now, we have not got anyone in for an interview at the moment, which is a little bit of a shame. I will give a quick shout out to Virtual Racing School, another one of our sponsors for this broadcast. Virtual Racing School offering 50 plus data packs for both road and oval racing. Those include setups, track guides, data analysis software, and one-on-one coaching. Their telemetry in particular is absolutely superb. Is for Virtual Racing School, you compare your telemetry to the telemetry of a pro level driver, and that really does help you identify exactly where you're losing time to the top level drivers around certain circuits. And of course, all those data packs follow the official series schedule as well, so they're always relevant tracks to whatever you are driving in. So big thanks to Virtual Racing School. Do check them out at virtualracingschool.com. Yeah, I mean, you weren't here 2 weeks ago, Jack, but I ruffled some feathers, shall I say. I angered some people on the chat. I don't know if that's why they don't want to talk to us. I can only apologise, if I'm honest. Yeah, they're a little bit shy tonight.
Yeah, it seems like it. You know, I haven't heard this story yet, so I may have to wait till after the broadcast to hear it. But you know, it wouldn't be like Sam Fitzpatrick to ruffle feathers. We all know that. But you know, it was a good round today, despite the gaps being so far spread apart. I suppose P2 AMs were very very entertaining to watch in this one, and it bodes well for the championship. Of course, we've now had sort of a lot of back and forth across these few rounds. Although we've had some streaks broken today, it has given a chance for some drivers to get back in the championship fight, especially Lucky Brown. He missed a round, of course, and now is firmly back in the title fight. But Jack Wells consistently there. He took a win last time into P2 this time. He's very much doing what he needs to keep himself in the championship fight. And thank the Lord, we have got somebody for interviews. I'll give this one to you, Sam. It is our P2 Pro winner, Daniel Civizabo, standing by for you.
Excellent stuff. Daniel, congratulations on the race victory tonight, your first race victory of the season. Yeah, just really well put together race. I mean, talk us through that first half of the race, the fuel saving element of it. How were you able to save a bit more fuel than your teammate?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I saved, I think, in total 7 laps behind him, and he only saved 3 behind me, so that was the case. And I mean, on the first lap with the P1s, I don't know what was that at the start, so that was a bit weird, but we got through that. And after that, I had to save like 0.7, I think, after the pit stop, and basically that was it for me.
How do you decide who's ahead and who's behind when you're in a pair like that? I mean, do you want to be behind, or do you want to be ahead in that scenario? Because I imagine, you know, if you want to be behind and save fuel, wouldn't you just be like lifting off the down the straights and basically going as slow as possible? I mean, how do you manage that as teammates?
Usually you do like 5-5, so you both save 5 behind and then push 5, so it is kind of equal and balanced between the fuel saving and the pace. This race it was a bit different, but yeah, basically you can call it between teammates if you want to go in front or go behind.
And then, yeah, after the pit stop, your pace was like super duper good. You were able to pull away. It was interesting because we sort of thought that that Daniel had the pace advantage over you today just based on qualifying, but you seem to be faster in the second half of the race. I mean, can you identify why that difference was the case?
My Q lap was incredibly bad. I mean, not that bad, but I had a few slides. So I think in Q we have the same pace, and then in the race I was able to save the rears. So that definitely helped me at the end of the race.
Next up, we have got Sebring. How is that track with these cars? Because we know that's a super bouncy or super like bumpy circuit. Do you feel that too much in the P2s, or can you set up the car so that it deals with those bumps quite well?
You can make it feel a bit smoother for sure, but the FFB is strong in the LMP2 and Sebring is just incredibly bouncy, so you can't just have a smooth car.
That's good to learn for the next race. Daniel, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, my team, my my teammate, and then our sponsors, Pure Sim Store, 3M Gloves, KRD Designs, and yeah, and you guys for making through an entire hour.
Well, thank you very much, Daniel. We are absolutely the number ones to shout out, so thanks for that. And yeah, best of luck for next week.
Yeah, thank you. See you guys.
Daniel Civi Sebo there, your race winner in the P2 Pro category. We might have another opportunity for another interview. We do have someone in the waiting area. This is Jake Shuri in the commentary in the waiting area. Jack, did you want to have a chat?
Yeah, I was sort of trying to figure out who it was, but we'll drag him in. We have Jake Shuri in with us now. Jake, I suppose a bit of a disappointing day. You looked very, very strong out there, but yeah, just talk us through it. Obviously caught up in an incident that wasn't your fault.
Yeah, it was a good race apart from that. I enjoyed it. It was just a bit unfortunate to be caught up in the incident in the chicane.
Yeah, it looked to us as well. We were a little bit surprised. I think you may have got away slightly lightly, even if you did get caught up in the incident as well. Because it looked like we thought you were going to have a longer tow time back to pit lane, but it seems you managed to avoid that.
Yeah. At first I was thinking it's going to be quite a while as well, but as I was towing, it was like, oh, it's only like 30 seconds. So I was like, bargain.
Yeah, it's always nice when that happens, but you know, I suppose some confidence taken from a good recovery drive. Obviously, you did lose points to Mork in the championship, but we still got a long way to go in the championship. But obviously, some positives to take with the pace.
Yeah, as you say, there's a long season to go and anything can happen, so just got to take it round by round and hope for the best.
And obviously, we've got Sebring coming up as the next target. I know it's a favourite with many. How do you think you're going to go there?
I think I need to practice a lot, to be honest. It's not one of my strongest tracks, but I'm up for a challenge.
Good stuff. Well, before we let you off, Jake, is there anyone you'd like to give a quick shout out to or give a thank you to?
Probably my team, TNT Esports. And my parents are downstairs, they're watching as well. So big thank you for their support throughout all of this.
Good stuff. Well, Jake, congratulations on getting it over the line, and we'll see you next time at Sebring.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
And, well, we have got, unfortunately, more, but we've run out of time. So, they turn up late.
They should have come earlier.
They should have come earlier. We're out of time,
guys. We've got a segment. We're structured here, all right, at Apex Racing TV. We know what we're doing. We have slots, and it's gone. The interviews are gone. So come back next week.
You had 10 minutes, guys. Come on. But we'll round it out there with Jake Shuri's interview. But it was great to have you all along with us this week for the ARL Prototype Championship Round 3 at Le Mans. New winners in P2 Pro and P2 Am, and Loki Brown with a dominant victory out front in this race as well. Next time we go to Sebring. That is probably the bumpiest circuit known to mankind, and it is a brilliant circuit, and I think it's going to provide for some really entertaining racing, plenty of slipstreaming as per usual, and look forward to seeing you there next week at the exact same time. So thank you to all the people who make this possible. Thank you to Sam, and thank you to John for working the cameras so well as well, and we will see you all next time out at Sebring. So from all of us at Apex Racing TV, thank you and good night.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.